Hello, hi, and welcome to EmpathicFire. I am your reader, Jay. These are going to be general messages for the sign of Leo in the month of October 2018. Hello, Leo. How are you guys doing? I hope you guys are doing well. As you can see, I shuffled off camera to save time. So that's your main spread there. We're going to shuffle for your outcome and your overall energy. Once all cards are out and they're lying face up, that's when the reading will begin. You can find the timestamp for that in the description box below if you want to go ahead and skip ahead. Also, in that description box, you're going to find information on how to get a personal reading with me if you are so inclined. And let's go ahead and get that outcome for you, Leo. Whoa, something went flying. There it is. Came like that. Bottom of the deck is the overall. All right, Leo, let's go ahead and flip your remaining cards and see what's happening. Wow. I say wow because it's a good amount of reversals, a good amount of pentacles. Just noticing that. If you follow tarot, maybe that means something to you. Me pointing that out. But let me go ahead and see what's going on here. Please show me where Leo is in October 2018. Please show me Leo in October 2018. Here? Thank you. All right, Leo, coming into October 2018, you come in as the Four of Pentacles. And Four of Pentacles in the traditional Rider-Waite would talk about kind of withholding, excuse me, not really, kind of being miserly, kind of being stingy, right? It's a depiction of a guy, and he's got a coin in front of him, and he holds it in front of his chest. He's got two coins under his feet, and he's got a coin on his head. And I'm saying coin, but pentacle. And so there's this idea of holding back. There's this idea of withdrawal, or like I said, being stingy and kind of being safe, being cautious, right? And in this deck, and the reason I use this deck and other decks, is to, switch up the energy, because this is totally, I don't know about you, but I don't really get necessarily stingy with this or miserly. With this deck, which is the Santa Morte deck, if you're interested in knowing that, by Fabio Lestrani. In this deck, I get, there is this feeling of being closed off, because here you have this figure, this female skull figure, and she's sort of like playing with like a toy set, not a toy set, but like a scale model set, sort of. And she's like arranging the people, or looks like she's pulling one out. And, so there's this sense of like, me talking about that, there's this sense of like disturbance, or, moving pieces around, like refigurating certain things in your life, restructuring things, okay? This idea of sort of reorganizing, or having to go back to the drawing board in some sense. Like, again, it's like a scale model that this figure is manipulating, right? So there's this feeling of things that were once a certain way are being rearranged, reorganized, restructured. And you would be a key player in that, Leo. You are kind of manipulating the moving pieces. You're kind of in control. The other thing that is interesting is that this is being done, like, she's by herself. So that's where, like, the solitude, or like being alone is coming from. It's just this one figure on this card, and seemingly dressed as a bride. So for some of you, maybe you're getting married, or you're kind of taking the helm and plotting your own wedding. You're kind of running the show. You're planning your own bachelorette party. You're planning the honeymoon. You're kind of taking on all that responsibility by yourself. That could be good, that could be bad, that's up for you to decide. But there is this sense of whatever is being reorganized is being done by you primarily, Leo. And there is sort of like this secrecy around it, like, I can't describe, never mind, I'm not even going to go into that because it's something so obscure, I'm sure like nobody would really know what I would be talking about. But like this little play set or the scale model set that this person, you Leo, is manipulating or then I shouldn't say manipulate, but like setting up, you know, moving the different pieces around, is really something of your own creation, or something that you have a very strong impact on, or like possession of, or you have a dominion over it. So it could be, you know, something as simple as redecorating your home or redecorating your room. Like maybe you're a college student and, you know, you're deciding you want to change the way, you know, you and your roommates' bunk beds are aligned or are situated in the room. I don't know. But there's this sense of you have ownership or possession or some type of dominion over whatever you're changing. Now it is Pentacles, so Pentacles do speak to money and resources, and again, physical possessions, things that you own in this world that that means something to you. So this could be a restructuring of a home. This could be a revamping or a repo job. Not a repo. Why did I say repo job? I'm sorry. And now I lost the dang word. Rehab. Thank you. A rehab job on your home. Something like that, where, you know, some of you might be getting your hands actually dirty by working on your home or doing something sort of like Mr. or Mrs. Fix-It around the house. Others of you have like a lot of irons in the fire in terms of your finances, and you're moving things around to kind of to see that the future is solidified, okay? Because fours are about structure, fours are about foundations, right? So there's this idea of things need to be moved around, rearranged, reorganized for the sake of being stable and secure in the future, dependable in the future. So there's I feel like that's sort of like focal to your mind right now, Leo, is I need stability and reliability for the future. In this area of my life, in that area of my life, whatever it is. And again, if this is about a wedding, that would definitely play, you know. I'm not going to start this marriage off with a crappy wedding, and I'm not going to have like all these, you know, last minute monkey wrenches like messing things up. I want it to be, I don't feel like this is being like too aggressive in any type of way, but it is very particular, this Four of Pentacles energy. It's super particular. Like, you have a plan, you have a vision, and you want that vision executed. You want that to be really smooth, as smooth as possible, okay? You want it to be fair in some cases. You want it to be fair, and you want it to be done sort of crisply, like, crisply, what the hell does that mean? Like on time. Like, you don't want to miss any deadlines. You don't want to go over budget. Everything has to be at the line. You know, it has to hit the mark. Almost to a perfectionist standpoint. And, you know, this whole rearranging of the little figurines in this little scale model town or whatever, that kind of seems like there's an element of that there. There's a perfectionist element to it. And suddenly I'm getting hit with this, so I should say it. There's also like this feeling, or the imagery on this card is reminding me of like stop motion animation or claymation or something like that, where maybe some of you are working on a project or you're working on a film of some sort that has an element of that within it or is strictly that. And so, you know, if you need to shoot a scene and you're showing motion amongst the characters or whatever, you have to ever so slightly move the pieces to show that, you know what I mean? Like what I just did with my hand there. So there is this element of having to get it right. And if you move it too quickly, or if you know, manipulate the arm too much, it doesn't look like it's a natural reaching out. It just looks like it goes from here to here. Like that that wouldn't translate well to the eye. So you have to be really meticulous about the changes that you're making. If specifically for those of you who might be working on something creatively where there is this element of manipulating an image or manipulating, a piece of clay or something like that. Very, very specific, but I hope that subtext kind of translates into wherever this might be hitting for you, Leo. And so that's kind of, I feel like a lot of energy is here. And there's a lot of like, not interference, but these are like other things that you're considering. Like that's kind of how it feels at this moment. Right. And you're being super careful. You're being super, super careful about everything. Like you're being careful here, here, and then this, I don't know what's going on there just yet. Okay. But you're being like really careful. And I really think it's because you're like fixated, for lack of a better word. Although fixated might not be a terrible word to use, but you have the Queen of Pentacles right above your starting position, okay? So the Queen of Pentacles typically is a queen, like all in the traditional Rider-Waite, that's sat on a throne, and she's contemplating and she's holding on her lap a pentacle, and she's like really contemplating and focused on it. Very similar posture to the Queen of Cups in the Rider-Waite deck. But this particular Queen of Pentacles is, I always mention it whenever she comes up, like she's out there doing the business. She's not sitting on the throne. She's not waiting for someone to bring her pentacle so that she can gaze upon it. She's out there about to climb that ladder and about to pluck some fruit from the tree or get whatever's up there that she wants. She's being very industrious. She's being very hands-on in procuring and obtaining whatever she wants. So it's very related to this. And again, it's a solo person. It's a solo image. This figure is by themselves. So Leo, there's a lot of action going on in your life. A lot of you, I feel this is like your mental and this is like your physical. Like mentally, you're kind of like doing long calculations, long division by hand. Like you're up at night crunching numbers, or things like you're visualizing it, you're thinking about it. Like this is your head. Like you're really, the gears are turning with this Four of Pentacles in your mind. And then what the manifestation, or how it manifests on your outside, is like this Queen of Pentacles where, okay, if I want this and this to be done by the end of the year, I'm going to have to work for it. Or I'm going to have to go do this. Or I'm going to have to make these appointments. Whatever it is. So some of you could be working more. You could be doing overtime. You could be picking up other different shifts. You could be getting a second job. Whatever your side hustle is, you're doing that. You're dog walking, you're babysitting, you're tutoring, you're doing all kinds of stuff, okay? You're delivering pizzas, for God's sakes. I don't know. And it's just this idea of, I have to do this. If I want what's in my mind, I have to get up off my butt and do it. And the Queen of Pentacles, again, in the traditional tarot, isn't necessarily about doing much, in my estimation. She usually just gets it. It kind of comes to her passively. I mean, she can be active and she can go out there and manifest and put in practical work to get what she desires, but that isn't really what is interpreted from that card usually. But this card in this deck, this queen, you can see it. It's what she's doing. So, and for some of you, it's not necessarily about money. Like I said, some of you are like, putting hammers to nails, and you're like rehabbing your home or doing a creative project. Like I said, with the film, could be writing for some of you. But it's very much like your mind is set on it. Like here your mind is set, and then this is just like you're kind of not keeping the pace, but you're making sure that your body, like your physical body, is up to the task. Like you're mentally in this space a lot, and then to be like this, thank you, got it, finally, thank you. So again, This I feel is more like your mental space, the Four of Pentacles. Like it's this vision in your mind that you're holding. You have this wish, you have this dream, you have this idea, whatever you're working on, whatever you're working towards, it's in your head. And again, the Queen of Pentacles is like the physical manifestation of that. It's you actually doing whatever you need to do, getting up and going to work, busting out the toolkit, hitting the gym, whatever you're doing, going to the bank, talking to financial advisors, whatever you are doing, it's the actual motion and practice of, and interactions and all that you have to do to get it to work. The problem that I'm feeling is that you might take on too much and you might overwhelm yourself. So it's like burning the midnight oil, burning the candle at both ends. You don't want to get down to the wick so quickly. And that's interesting because, you know, Pentacles are not known for their speed, but there is this feeling between these two cards together that it could be you're taking on too much. It's almost more than you can handle. Almost. I feel a sense to caution you to not push yourself to any limits, to make sure you know where your limits are and not to cross them. So if you are working longer hours, let's say your job is physically demanding, maybe you're, you know, for God's sakes, maybe you're like a long haul truck driver, right? And those people, they put on hours and hours of time on the road. Like they can drive a full 24 hours, even though they're not supposed to, right? You know, and that's really dangerous to your health and the health and safety of others. So if your job is something like that, where the more you do it, the more exhausted you become. I mean, that's any job really, but like if you become so exhausted to the point where you could pass out, you could fall asleep, you could injure yourself, I really want to caution you about that. And the Pentacles, like I said, you have a lot of pentacles on this board, and the tone of it is pretty green, yellow, a little bit of blue. A lot of that to me like signals to like your natural not your natural senses, but like your natural being, your natural body. So you would need to be really cautious not to hurt yourself, okay? And I think you have some anxiety about this. Like, you know, you might push your limits, or you might come right up to the brink of your limits. But I feel like I feel like you're trying to prove something. Yes, because you got a lot. Yes. Okay, got it. I think a lot of you are battling these energies here. Four of Swords. Definitely different than the traditional Rider-Waite in a lot of ways. But what I get from this is like stasis, which is again very similar to the Rider-Waite. Like being in a holding pattern, being kind of frozen in time, or being in some type of paralysis, analysis paralysis, maybe an emotional or a financial paralysis, because again, I do get a lot of money between these two cards. There is this financial thing for some of you, and you have been, or you are cautious of, I don't want to get stuck. So some of you, like, this is an energy that you've been in and you're familiar with it and you want to get away from it. It's like, I don't want to go back here to not progressing forward in my life or progressing forward in my career, because Pentacles can talk about your career path and your actual job that you get up and go to every day. And quickly, just based off of what I just said there about a job, since the Queen of Wands would be ascending a ladder, a lot of you could be putting things in motion with the Four of Pentacles to move up the corporate ladder, okay? Very obvious interpretation, but just need to point that out. But anyway, so some of you just don't want to be, stuck in a dead-end job, stuck dead-end in your finances. You really want, to get an upstart, or a kickstart to your finances. So maybe you're looking into how to begin investing, or how to, start a business, whatever you're trying to do, to move away from just kind of being like that, like just sort of flatline, for lack of a better word. And in other cases, since the coffin is quite prevalent there on the card. A lot of you want to get away from feeling stuck, like shut in, like withheld or withdrawn, like right. So a lot of okay, thank you. So going back to these pentacles, these two pentacle cards, the Queen and the Four, there is, like I said, or there was an emphasis on it being done by yourself, Leo. Like you are being, you're solo. You're like heading up this venture. You're the one who's doing the work. You're the one who's making the plans. I feel like there's this feeling for some of you, not a whole bunch, but some of you, where this is about, to some extent, your independence, financially or otherwise. This idea of you can't do it by yourself. This idea of you've not been as tenacious or as reliable or responsible as you could have been, and you were shut away from the world, or shut away from the situation, or shut away from certain people. Like you put yourself in this coffin, even though that wouldn't make sense. How could you hammer your own coffin from the outside? But you know what I mean, that you put yourself in this position of stasis, of not moving anywhere, of not growing, of not expanding yourself or seizing opportunities. There was this pause for some of you that you have already experienced. For others of you, you haven't really experienced that. Recently, I should say. Recently, you haven't. But you're cautious. I think I did say something about that. Like you're very cautious about returning to this energy of being sort of stuck in this analyzing reflection period that you know you might have the capacity to get into, where you would be thinking about your life or thinking about the goals and the dreams that you have, but never actually acting upon it. Like a lot of this is about inaction. And if you're not doing this, if you're not planning and acting, thinking, and then putting it into action over here, then you are here, or thank you. Some of you might have a disconnect between the thinking and the doing. Some of you might be heavily thinking and then you're actually not moving. But I feel most are thinking and moving, planning and acting, planning, acting, okay? I feel most Leos are in this spot. Some will be still here and here, thinking but not acting, thinking and dreaming, but then just, sitting on your hands and not, going out there and getting what you want. Now this whole thing is very interesting because I have a nice corner here of reversals. And reversals are, to me, significant. Like some readers don't read reversals, and I'm like, why not? But that's just me. But I'm wondering, I'm trying to get a sense of if this is separate for some reason. I don't think it is. Is it separate? Is this separate? That's what I thought. It's not separate, but I'm like, kind of like, where are we going next? Because, right, I'm lacking. Okay. So, I'm getting that there's this worry about loss. There's a worry about things not being sort of in your favor, or a situation or people haven't been on your side. In some cases, some people are going to feel abandoned, or they're going to feel left behind. There's this disconnect. Here, you're very connected to yourself. 1, 2, 3. And again, I didn't even mention that, but here on the Four of Swords, like on the Four of Pentacles and the Queen of Pentacles, there is a solo figure. So there is this idea of being alone. And like I said, being reliant on self, needing to be independent and self-sufficient. And here there's this idea of not having that option, or having been more reliant on others and sort of being forced into this solo thing? Okay, yeah. Thank you. Wait, again? Okay, thank you. Got it. All right, so you have, and I'm going to show it to you upright first. You have the Nine of Pentacles, right? But again, this is in reverse for you. And so Nine of Pentacles in the traditional Rider-Waite, and I'm kind of feeling it this way too, is usually a card of singlehood or being single and fabulous. But the bigger point is being self-sufficient, being able to sustain the self, being able to rely on the self and being independent. And when it's in the reverse, that's basically not what's going on. And I feel that this could be where some of you are like I feel like you're getting out of the tail end of that. Okay, this idea of I can't do it by myself, or this idea of I have to rely on others, or I don't have the stability or the capability to stand on my own 2 feet. For some of you, that could have been the case. That could have been the case. I get this sense of, in this case, for some of you, this is because in your past, or not necessarily your past, but like sort of maybe like over the course of your life, many of you have had a shoulder to lean on from one particular person or from several people, but there has always been someone sort of in your corner, people that you could turn to in the time of need. And as you've gotten older, that group of people, list of people, or that particular person is just not available anymore. Okay, I get this feeling of, in some cases, this is financial. So for some of you Leos, your financial independence is becoming a huge, like, pinnacle, not pentacle, but pinnacle part. Because I almost said pinnacle. I was like, no, that's not the word. Pinnacle part of your life. It's becoming like a focal point of your life where you need to be able to take care of all of your financial responsibilities by yourself. You could be 20 years old having to do this. You could be, 50 years old having to do this. You could be 70 years old and finally having to do this at that stage in your life. I'm not, I'm not trying to preach and say, it's time to be an adult, Leo. We all come to certain crossroads or certain, like I said, pinnacle points in our lives at different times and under different circumstances. So for those where this is a financial situation, I feel as though you've had access to money or access to resources and support throughout a certain phase or stage in your life. And now that phase or stage is ending. That certain relationship with a person who was there for you financially, was able to support you financially, is ending, or they are no longer here for whatever reason, in whatever way, and now you kind of have to go out there and be on top of things by yourself. For others, this is about a home situation, so it could be actual ownership of a home, or your living arrangement within a home structure, and you're having to go out and live on your own for the first time in your life, and maybe, you're 38 years old and this is the first time you're doing that. There is no judgment on that. I'm not trying to be condescending in any type of way, because I have no position to be so condescending, but that's sort of what this feels like. It feels like if it came up right, you would have already accomplished this, and you would have already have been connected with this energy. But for it to come up in reverse, you're, like I said, there's a disconnect. You have a disconnect from that energy of being solid, of being stable, of being secure in yourself. In a very for a lot of you, it's heavily financial. If it's not specifically money, it's about your resources or your livelihood or your ability to kind of have a stable living situation. So where you live, how you live, who you live with, things like that. And for others, it could be a case of your independence in terms of your career. It could be that you've never had a job that was really a career. Maybe you've always had, by the wayside kind of jobs, throwaway jobs, working retail, working customer service, working in the food industries. And no offense to anybody who works those jobs and makes a career out of it, but it's not typically seen as a career. If you are, bussing tables for like 15 years and you don't really do much back of house stuff, again, no judgment about that, but maybe you're at a point in your life, Leo, if that's your situation, where you've been working this service job or customer service or retail or whatever, and you've been doing it and it's gotten you by, but now you're like, I need more from my life. I need more out of these 40 hours that I put in. And if you're working retail or other jobs similar to that, you're probably not even working 40 hours a week because, they don't want to pay you that much money and they don't want to provide you with healthcare. So you're probably working something asinine like 35 hours a week or 28 hours a week, something really silly. And you're like, oh my God, I'm like 20 something years old. I've been working here for, since I was a teenager. This is not a way to live. So a lot of you are coming to this new pinnacle point or this new focal point in your life where you're like, I need a career. I need to be able to ascend that corporate ladder or ascend some type of professional ladder, not just for the money, but like for what I said, having a secure job that's stable. You know what I mean? If you work retail or anything like that, you don't get as many hours during this time of the week. You're going to be slammed with hours and slammed with customers because holidays are coming up and all that kind of stuff. You're like, no, I want a regular schmegular job, okay? I don't want to be here on Thanksgiving Day. I want to be home with my family this year. So some of you have like those practical goals. How can I get out of this industry and into something more profitable, or not profitable, but more financially lucrative for me and stable for me and all that kind of stuff, okay? And yep. And that, okay, so like you kind of have, even though we didn't start here, there's sort of like this cycle or circular thing that I'm feeling here. And a lot of this is like what you're focused on consciously. Like these upright cards are kind of where you're thinking, what's next? What's next? What's next? I don't want to go back there. I can't deal with this. And it's like itemizing, like you're sort of itemizing the parts of yourself that are working in your favor. Some of you might be working on your resume. What are your skills? What's your experience? And you're listing all the positives about yourself or the positives about your experience. And on this other side, you're like, but this is all the stuff that I don't like, or these are all the things that I don't want to go back to and I don't want to experience anymore. So there's sort of like this positive, for lack of better words, positive and negative thing that's going on, where you're wanting to consciously work on things that are constructive, that are positive, that are seeing you move forward. And you're kind of wanting to avoid or ignore or forget about or just totally sort of isolate these more negative energies. And you have, and this, I feel a lot of this is like in your head. Like, not for lack of clarity, but how quote unquote real that is going to be is up to you. These three cards being more in your head about your perception. Thank you. Instead of in your head, this is like your perception. Thank you. So you also have the Ace of Swords. I'll show you upright so you can get used to this deck. But like I said, it's in reverse. So you have not acted in your best interest. You, Leah, this is a very solo reading in a lot of ways. Like I get the feeling and presence of others or the impact and the role that other people have played, but it's very general. It's not like specific people. It's not like, oh, someone in your family or anything like that, or your loved one, your roommate. No, it's like this is heavily focused on you, Leo. And this Ace of Swords coming in reverse is like you have cut yourself short. You have sold yourself, or what's that phrase? Sold yourself down the river, sell them down the river, something like that. Basically, you weren't your own cheerleader. You didn't stand in your own corner. And that came from, I think, a lot of complacency. I get a sense of, like, in some people's cases, I get this idea of laziness or not wanting to put up a good fight. You just kind of wanted things to mellow out. Like, and I don't want to say that in any type of tone that could be offensive or condescending to you, but what I'm getting is, like, instead of working hard, you just did what you needed to do to get by. And that could be for many reasons. For some of you, it could be for reasons of insecurity. It could be for reasons of you literally had no energy or no strength to really push any more intensely or put any more effort into whatever you were doing. In others, it was a matter of time and money, and you wanted to do the work, or you wanted to go that extra mile, but you just couldn't show up to the place, or you didn't have enough money to invest, or you didn't have enough money saved in order to make that purchase, whatever it is. But this Ace of Swords in reverse is about missed opportunities, and you had some hand, maybe not exclusively, but you had some kind of contribution to that, Leo. You know you did. And the reason this is in reverse is because some of you are in denial of that you had a hand in your own misfortune, or you had a hand. I shouldn't say it. I shouldn't say it so flippantly. And I'm talking to my people. I'm a Leo too. So, and I'm not trying to down us. I'm not trying to make it seem as though, every Leo is to blame for all the things no, but there is some contribution, because I think there is this feeling of not seizing opportunities, or seeing an opportunity, but it's too late to act upon it, or it's too late to take advantage of it. It's too late to ask someone for something, or, in some cases, maybe there were, relationships that were severed, or somehow injured, or somehow not nurtured enough in order to make a connection. Okay, so it's just thank you, because I was like, where am I going with this? And I'm like, let me show you upright so you can see it a little bit better. So swords are about truth, right? They're about communication and honesty and clarity of thought, clarity of speech, and for the most part, this sword is clear. Like, you can see the blade, right? For the most part. But there are a few vines around the body of the blade, and it's quite inconsequential. When you look at this card in totality, it's kind of like, no big deal. But they're having me talk about this vine being wrapped around this sword. So there is something in this message that basically you didn't, or you haven't been as vocal about what you want, what you need, what you desire. You haven't been as vocal about what you agree with, what you disagree with. There's been this idea of being held back. Thank you, God, boom. And of course, it's in reverse. So there's been, in some cases, a lack of clarity. Maybe you couldn't speak. Like, you knew something was up. You knew that you weren't happy. You knew that you were concerned about your future, concerned about the money, whatever. But you couldn't really articulate or put your finger on and say clearly, this is this. You couldn't call a spade, so to speak. And that's... I laugh because swords, and especially the Ace of Swords, would be equivalent to the Ace of Spades in a regular playing card deck. Like, you can read tarot with playing cards, and swords are spades, clubs are wands, cups are hearts, and pentacles are diamonds. So, you just couldn't call a spade a spade. And with the Ace of Swords, aka the Ace of Spades in reverse, there was this inability to execute your own vision, not your own vision, but your own opinion, your own thoughts. You weren't able to speak your mind, be truthful, and sometimes not even necessarily with other people. Let me clarify that. It wasn't necessarily I have to come clean to this person because I don't want to work here anymore, or I don't want to, or I can't invest, whatever it is. It's not necessarily about speaking truths and being honest with other people. This is also self-truth, self-communication. What you knew was true in your situation, what you knew you had to do in order to get out of or prevent a certain setback, and you didn't do it. Within yourself. You were in denial. You know? And again, I'm saying were. So I think a lot of you, if not damn near almost all of you Leos, are going to have had that experience in the past. And not even necessarily recent. This could go back to when you were a kid or a teenager. And you could be like 50 something now. And you're thinking back to, you know, when I was in college, I didn't do this, or I didn't say this, and I could have had this opportunity. And some of you might be kicking yourselves in the pants over that, because if you had acted on that opportunity, if you had expressed your interest or your opinion or whatever, you could have had this Nine of Pentacles in the upright. And again, this is about perception. I don't necessarily think this is factual. Nobody has like the ability to hop in a DeLorean and go back and change what has happened in the past. Nobody has, that capability. So I think a lot of this is just about perception and feeling as though you missed opportunities because you weren't truthful with yourself, or because you didn't express what you felt was honest or as opportune, or as beneficial for you. Like there's this idea of I could have had more, or I could have been here by now. I could have been in contact with these people. Perception. Okay? And there would be this idea of having to let that go in order to move forward or truly heal from it, truly let it be gone and done and dusted. But I think there is something, Leo, that sort of keeps this thing returning. So you could, some of us could be going through like patterns, right? Could be going through patterns, could be going through repeat situations or circumstances that feel like, oh my God, here I go again. Here I am again, having to restructure my finances. Here I go again, having to move to a different house or move to a different apartment, whatever it is. And Judgment in reverse. Show you upright first, sorry. So, Okay, so again, perspective. Because again, this came in reverse. And I feel that this corner is really about perspective. It's really about what you're thinking or feeling deep inside, or it pops up regularly and you kind of haven't come to terms with it yet. And that would be why this is here. Okay. Is it impeding on what you're doing in the day-to-day? I don't think so. Right? You're still acting in your best interest. You're still putting in hard work and everything like that. But there's this perception of, I can't let it go, or I haven't been released from this need of having to work hard. I haven't been released from this need of having to obtain and save more money. I haven't been released from this need to have to reconstruct my living situation because I was late on the rent and my landlord's going to kick me out. Whatever your situation is, you feel as though, here I go again. Here it comes again. Here comes this mess again. Here comes this person again. Here comes this drama again. And in some cases, like I said earlier, or you feel or you suspect that you are contributing to this cycle being repeated. Perception. Is that true? I don't know. okay? I don't know your life. I barely know my own. So I can't say it's anything other than that's just how you're perceiving it. In the eyes of other people, Leo, you might be very accomplished. You might not be of, I don't want to say that word, but okay, failure. Some of you might have those thoughts of, I keep coming back to square one, and that makes you a failure. Okay, and here we go. See, I know it. Thank you. So now they're like, you know. And I was like, okay, fine. Let's have a heart-to-heart, Leo. We all know, most Leos, if not damn near all, have high expectations of self. Like, if I'm not the best, if I don't succeed, how can anyone else be expected to? And it's not about ego. It's not like oh, I'm the best and now you have to beat me, or now you have to compare with me. It's not like that. It's more of like if I don't succeed, if I'm not able to do this, how then would people look at me with respect? Look at me and love me. Look at me and admire me, or say, you know what I mean? And it's not I hope you understand. I hope, because I'm talking to my people, so I think you guys understand what I'm saying. It's not because you want to be applauded and you want your ego stroked. That's really not what it is. It's really about, you want to be worthwhile. You want to be someone that people can look at in admiration and say, oh, what a cool person that is. What a good person that is. What a honest to goodness, amazing human being that is. And whatever you're feeling that you're coming back to square one with, that you're having to repeat, that you're having to experience over and over and over again, it's challenging, yes, but it does not devalue you in the eyes of others necessarily. For some, maybe, oh, there goes Leo getting put out the house again. So some people might be looking at you in a situation like that and saying, there goes Leo out on the curb again, or having to find another job, or, well, there goes Leo having to look for a loan, blah, 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 whatever. There will be some people, absolutely, who look at you and they're going to look down their nose at you. There are other people who that doesn't even matter to them in the grand scheme of who you are, in the grand scheme of your character. So I think that there's this idea of, you need to forgive yourself. Judgment card in reverse. Because the judgment is about calling up the dead, kind of, you know, if you think about it in biblical terms, it's about calling up the dead and basically saying, those who atoned, you're coming up here with me. Those who did not, stay here. Someone else will be here to see you. You know, it's kind of like this separating of the good and the bad, right? And I feel when it's in reverse like this, like, you kind of feel like your judgment hasn't come. You feel as though you're constantly trying to prove yourself. You're constantly trying to meet a measure that you have created, not other people. In some cases you feel other people, but really Leo will only measure themselves. or we're, the biggest measuring stick is your own, not someone else's. Truly, Leo. Come on, let's be honest here. So by your own criteria, you feel as though you haven't been able to ascend or tick all those boxes. And it's like, dude, cut yourself a break. I think I said that to Cancer. I did their reading yesterday, I think, or the day before, or something like that. And they were not cutting themselves a break. So I feel like, Leo, you kind of have to cut yourself a break here. Because again, I feel like this is really like your perception or something deep in your subconscious that you haven't let go of, or you haven't properly addressed yet. And there's a need to heal here, a deep need to heal. And I think I mentioned before, there's a lot of yellow in these cards. And that would be, and again, I think I said that to Cancer. That would then, on a level with your chakras, that would indicate your solar plexus. And your solar plexus is about self-identification, self-acknowledgement, self-awareness, right? And if that's out of whack, or needs some realignment, some adjusting, some meditation, some healing, some powering up, see to it, man. See to it, okay? Now, what's your outcome for October? 3 of Pentacles. Pentacles galore, my friends. So, I'm not getting it exclusively, but I am reminded of the Eight of Pentacles in the traditional Rider-Waite, just because of the posture of this card and this idea of growing, right? There's this idea of cultivating and tending to, right? But that Eight of Pentacles is usually about mastership and apprenticeship and all that kind of stuff. So the difference here is, again, by yourself, putting in this work, by yourself, being a careful gardener, trying your best not to overdo it. And I say that as I look at a plant over on my own windowsill, and I'm like, oh, I should tend to it. Like, it's not dying or anything, but I'm like, I gotta make sure it's okay. So there's this idea of carefully tending to your crops. So you've made these plans over here with the Four of Pentacles. You're out there doing the work with the Queen of Pentacles. You're avoiding getting stuck in your pitfall and going back into these negative Nancy sort of mindsets, these experiences in your past that are plaguing you. There's a lot of stuff that you have to tend to. And so that's what is going on here. You have to carefully weed, you have to carefully water, you have to carefully change the soil, you have to make sure that the compost is good, you got to make sure there's no insects and other garden critters eating your food or eating your stock, right? And the difference here again than the Rider-Waite deck or traditional tarot is, again, the Three of Pentacles usually has 3 people on it. It's usually a card that indicates teamwork and cooperation. And sure, that might be a factor. You know, for some of you or a good portion of you, that might be necessary. Okay, I want to get my finances in order, but I'm not a financially minded person. I'm more artistic, and numbers go over my head. So you might need to, you know, get in contact with an accountant or get in contact with a financial advisor, or just even go down to your local bank or credit union or whatever and talk to people there to kind of give you options or give you some basic understanding so that you can move forward in a way that you want to. There is that element there. But again, you have to do that. You have to make that decision. You have to make the appointment. You have to seek out those people if you want to succeed. They're not going to come to you and say, hey, did you know that we have all these financial services? Nobody's going to knock on your door and say, hey, do you need help balancing your checkbook? You know? If that's something that you want to do, you have to go out there and do it. So there's just a lot of this energy, Leo, is you have to go and do it, and you have to be consistent. I do feel there's this need to be consistent. And that doesn't shake you. That doesn't bother you. You know that. I'm preaching to the choir here. But I think the issue would be, because I keep talking about being alone, right? One. The only card with multiple figures is the Judgment card. So all of these cards in your spread have one figure in them. So the consistency might bother you because you have to be alone. You have to be the person pulling the strings. You have to be the person calling all the shots, which again might surprise people, but I'm talking to other Leos, so I know I'm preaching to the choir. I think a lot of people would look at Leos and say, oh, you guys are egotistical, or you like to be in control, you like to be center of attention, so of course you don't mind making decisions. Actually, a lot of Leos don't want to make decisions. A lot of Leos want to defer to what everybody else wants, pleasing other people, making sure that other people are comfortable, making sure that other people agree with or would be happy to go along with Leo's plan to do this, right? So there might be, I think I mentioned earlier in the reading, there might be some feelings of anxiety of having to consistently be the person who makes these decisions, ironically or fittingly, for your own life, for your own future. There might be immense pressure on you to make sure that whatever you grow out of your garden is fruitful. You know, for some of you, like I said earlier, this might be that you're starting a business, or you're interested in starting a business, and you're kind of flying solo for the most part. And whether that business fails or succeeds is based off of your decisions purely. That can be nerve-wracking. That can be incredibly nerve-wracking. And so I tip my hat to you if you're doing that. I'm kind of doing that. So yeah, it's going to be a challenge, but I also feel that the hiccup is very internal. The 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 monkey wrench that could fall into the gears here would really come from you, Leo. Would really come from some internal space that is embedded and infected with insecurities, infected with bad memories, and not being able to let go of past failures or past disappointments or past missed opportunities, whatever. Again, internal perception. Gotta let it go. Because what's going on the outside is sort of business as usual. There's opportunities there. You have tenacity on your side. You have goal setting, goal orientation on your side. There's really nothing to prevent you from getting what you want, except you. Overall energy for the month of October. 9 of Swords. So what the hell was I just talking about? Hello. Wasn't even looking at the board as I was talking about any of that. But there it is. 9 of Swords. Card of anxiety. Card of plagued mental visions or your mentality, like being imprisoned, right? Look at that. Look at that headgear. Now, these aren't swords necessarily, and they're not really sharp. They seem to connect on all sides, but I would dare you to try and remove that thing in one sweeping motion. Impossible. So to not only get your head stuck in this contraption and then to remove it is difficult. And this is a priest, right? A priest with what we can assume is like a Bible. So there's this idea, Leo, or this theme, I suppose, that you might struggle with your faith, you might struggle with your ability to believe that you can succeed or that you can transcend your circumstances or transcend your own mind, your own perspective, your own understandings. And I think this is like really partnership over here in this corner where the challenge really comes from. None of this is easy because, like I said, getting up and busting your hump every day and putting in extra hours at work or getting a side job or having to find a new home at no notice because you're being put out or whatever reason. None of this is easy, but it's this idea of having the faith, having the belief that you can let this stuff from your past go, let these disappointments go, let go and understand that it's not punishment for the sake of punishment. It's not failure for the sake of failure. I can't explain it beyond that. There is a silver lining somewhere, but you have to get your head in the right space. You have to remove these barbs, these invading thoughts, these invading memories. You have to get away from that in order to see these opportunities, to see these silver linings, to see how you can change your sort of unfortunate circumstances into something more positive, or how a disappointment, a failure, a missed opportunity lines you up for something greater. Basically, seeing a blessing in disguise. Hard to do because, Leos like to be satisfied, okay? Like, oh my God, why did I have to go through all that hard bull crap? Why couldn't I just have this from the beginning? Difficult for some Leos to do that. But that's basically it. There are going to be, if not there is right now, some blessing in disguise and you don't see it. Your mind is being, there's a lot of interference in your head. Gotta get rid of that interference. You get rid of the interference, be good to go. All right? All right, Leo, so that's your reading for October 2018. I hope something here resonated with you. If it did, let me know. I'd be curious to read about it. I'd be curious to hear what you guys have to say. You can talk about that down in the comment section below. Also, hit the like button if you like what you saw here. That would be amazing. And, of course, sharing and subscribing to the channel would be amazing as well. And I will be back in about 3 weeks. Since these are coming out pretty late, I'll be back in about 3 weeks when I do your November readings. Until then, guys, thanks so much for watching. Take care. Bye.